Hey folks, Dr. Z here. Today, instead of giving you a posture exercise, I thought I'd give you a little bit of context and background for why I talk about posture the way that I do, why I think it's so important to attend to and to work on, and just give you a little insight into what's going on in here so that you understand where I'm coming from a little bit better and can practice some of the posture exercises that I share with a little more conscientiousness and a little more mindfulness. I got excited about chiropractic early on because I see it as one of the best ways I've ever heard of to work with that mind-body interface, that place where thought, which is intangible, becomes movement or expression, which is tangible. I find this interaction between the mind and body really, really, like, frankly, miraculous and really fascinating. And so that's why I really explore and work with chiropractic as my method, because chiropractic, even though it looks like it's about the bones in the neck and the back, is actually about what the bones are protecting: the spinal cord and the brain, the central nervous system, where you experience the world and where who you are gets organized for expression. So that being said, I want to talk a little bit about what happens right after you're born. When we're first born, you might know that the skull bones are not fully formed, and so there's a little soft spot, but the spinal bones are all in place. And the spine is in a configuration that you're probably familiar with: fetal position. It's that curled up into a C shape, right? And when we're in that position, the psychology is basically just absorb nutrients, find and absorb nutrients, work on growth. And there's not a lot of presence or awareness to the world around an infant. As the infant develops, the first thing that happens in normal infant development is this: the head raises and there's a curiosity, an engagement with a world outside of just self, or just self and mother. That there's something out there. What's that over there? What's that over there? I can control where my attention goes, I discover. And there's things out there worth attending to, I discover. So that's the first thing that develops. Therefore, the brain associates this curled over sensation with an involution of self. The mind is really only attending to the inner space. And the development of the curve, the presence of the natural cervical curve, the natural curve in the neck, is associated with engagement with the world. The second curve to develop, you have three basic curves in your spine: the neck curve, the mid-back curve, the low back curve. The low back curve is the second curve to develop. And it really develops first as we crawl and the belly is hanging, and we start to get that forward curve, and then it really takes root and solidifies as we start to walk. And the psychology, and if you've ever watched little kids go through this developmental process, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The psychology shifts from there's something out there to I can get myself somewhere. I can move me. I can make things happen just by going to the world instead of being a passive participant, being a passive observer in the world. And so because of that, the psychological development paired with the physical development, the curve in the spine in the low back really has to do with drive, motivation, feeling like you have power to make change in the world. For those of you who have looked a little bit into Eastern esoteric science, this maybe matches a little bit with the third chakra, but I don't need to think about it in those terms. You are welcome to. For me, this really has to do with there is a physiological thing that's happening and a concomitant psychological process that's occurring, and what the brain does, what the brain is great at, is taking two stimuli that occur together and turning them into one thing. All of that is to say that when we change and distort the curve in the neck or the curve in the low back, we actually change and distort how our brain is processing us. A lack of curve in the cervical spine tends to be associated with, and I see this all the time in my practice, a little bit of like, I don't want to think about what's going on out there. I just don't even want to engage with it. It doesn't matter. All that matters is like taking care of this and making this feel okay. You can see this directly reflected in the psychological state, the awareness of people who are on their phones all the time. The whole rest of the world has gone away, right? It's that. When the neck is curved forward, the whole rest of the world isn't really there. As the neck curves back into its natural alignment, the world becomes more interesting and engaging. Okay? So this is why I'm really fascinated by posture and excited to help people make changes in posture, because the thing that I see again and again as people's posture restores to a more natural state of greater ease, of more curve in the spine, a normal balanced curve in the low back, that people's engagement with the world around them becomes curious again, and the eyes sparkle a little bit more instead of, I guess I'll just wait it out. And that's the forward curve. And so I do structural work correcting people's posture precisely because I want to see not just back pain go away, headaches go away. That's exciting because when those are happening, life is hard. But also because I like to see, as the posture changes, the liveliness happens. People get more directive with their life as the lumbar curve starts to normalize. People get more engaged with the world around them as the neck curve starts to normalize. And I see it all the time. So I challenge you, take a look around you. Find the people who you see as the most lively, vital, engaged, interested, and see what their bodies do when they're at rest. If they're just sitting or standing relaxed, is their head a little bit more on top of their body, or is it way out in front? If it's way out in front, probably the low back is really compromised and that drive function is stuck on. Your mileage may vary. Do your own analysis. This is what I notice. Let me know what you think. Ciao.